Stand clear.
100% Wild podcast.
So for all you listeners,
Hello, and welcome to
definitely not your favorite outdoor podcast.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Drury Outdoors 100% Wild podcast. This is episode number 338. We're powered by DeerCast. I continue to be Tim Chelsvik.
I'm Matt Drury, and we got a special guest this week.
Yeah, we got Ben Stallman.
Yeah, happy to be here.
So Ben's a behind-the-scenes guy. He's, as we were alluding to before we went on air, he's a behind-the-wall guy. Literally behind that wall is his desk.
Listens to every show.
It's between the bathroom and the podcast. Yeah. And when I say between, there's like 5 feet there.
Let me tell you, he hears everything.
Yeah, it's definitely a tight space in between right outside the bathroom door and this soundboard here. You can hear a lot.
Yeah, well, but now you're big timing. You're here on the stage. It's got to be like a dream come true.
Yeah, I've been here for over 2 years, and this is the first time you guys have let me come up here.
Well,
no, that's inaccurate.
You're lying, sir.
Yeah.
You were part of that. What was it? You read those. You were on that game.
Yeah. What was that? Oh, it was catchphrases.
Yeah, and he
honey
had
catchphrases.
to do it in a female voice. That's
What
all
was
I remember.
that?
A Southern Belle.
It was. Oh, that's a swank attack, right?
I think you had more of a Southern Belle twist to it.
Yeah, that was weird.
Southern Belle with like a speech problem.
So, reason why Ben's on the episode this week, he was #blessed to be able to go on a trip with me last week to Kansas.
Wait, does bless mean hatcheted in the knee with a machete?
Well, that was his fault.
Oh, okay.
So, basically, Scott couldn't go.
See, what happened was...
So, Scott! Ben got the call up. And it was a great trip. Right up till the end.
Yeah.
Right up until it wasn't.
So yeah, this is kind of, I mean, I kind of hurt for you when I found out what happened.
Thank you, Tim.
Because not that it's gonna that and $2 is gonna get you a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Cold coffee.
Yeah.
So it was not
It was a dark and dreary night.
Yeah, not the trip that you anticipated. Like
No.
the text that you sent me initially, I thought, all right, my boy did it.
We're on the board. Go podcast.
Team 100% Wild is 100% on the board.
So I led with the shot because it looked like
Good looking shot.
this deer's dead.
Eh,
But then I followed it up after you congratulated me with he got up 30 seconds later and took off running.
I was driving back from Springfield, Illinois, and Beth was getting the play-by-play because I was like, oh, right, Matt killed. And I was like, oh, no.
Ew.
Oh, no.
This gets worse.
Crap, there's more to the story.
So, typically this is one of those deals where in my mind I was playing it kind of back and forth, like, do we even talk about it? Because it was so annoying kind of how it
Sure.
went down. And honestly, like, I got no shame in what happened. I got nothing to hide in what happened.
No shame in general.
And no shame in general. And that's kind of the gist of the podcast.
That's our brand.
I figured, what the hell? The 5 people that are listening to it, let's
roll with it.
Let's cue them in on what happened.
It is the reality. Like,
Yeah.
things happen. So let's talk about, like, so you guys have been, you were out in Kansas, was it 2 years ago now?
Yep, 2 years ago, got an invite from a friend of a friend that said, hey, I guess he had been trying to get my dad to go out and visit. He's killed some giant deer. They kill some giant deer out there.
Giants.
And it's pretty west in Kansas, so it's not quite to Colorado, but it's far out there. I mean,
Sure.
it's past middle, put it that way.
Okay.
So it was about an 8-hour drive. But anyways, so went out there 2 years ago, had a great hunt. Scott and I went out there, killed a good 8-pointer, I think 148-inch 8-pointer from a ground blind. It was an awesome hunt. And it was an early muzzleloader tag that I had. I put in last year and didn't get drawn for Kansas. And so this year I was pretty confident I'd get drawn. So I got drawn, went back out there, had been getting updates all summer from Jason, the landowner, Jason Bren, super great guy and great family in general. And they had some big deer again this year. So excited. And I don't even care about any of that. It's like, hey, you got a mature management buck, I really don't care. Whatever you want me
happy to be
to
here.
shoot, I'm happy to be here. The way I looked at it is, hey, let's kick the season off before Missouri opens up. It gives me a chance to go fill a tag and try to reverse the curse, get the monkey off the back from 22 and just kick things off. Deer season 23. Let's kick it off.
And that was kind of like, it was kind of weird knowing that you were out there deer hunting and knowing that season hadn't started here in Missouri. It felt like you were time traveling, like, oh, Matt's living in deer season land right now.
I'd like to time travel. Let me tell you, I'd aim a little lower. So we go out to Kansas. First of all, it was like 100 degrees, 90 degrees. They were going through the major heat wave leading into the season. And Jason's like, look, everything disappeared when they shed their velvet and like nothing's come back yet. We may have to postpone. I looked at DeerCast to the 14-day forecast. And I'm like, actually, look out ahead. It looks like for opening day, like some rain was going to come Saturday, Sunday and give them a major cool front. And it was a major cool front. So we got there early enough on Sunday. Season opened on Monday for that early muzz. We got there early enough Sunday to do some scouting on a deer that he had been seeing on camera. And so we got into a ground blind. We kind of were backed a couple 100 yards back from where the deer had been showing up. And we had this really high elevated position on this kind of bluff looking down into this valley. Okay. So it was perfect. Access in. We got there.
And how long had the blind been there? I'm always curious about
he set
setup.
That blind up a week, maybe 2 weeks before.
Oh,
he set that blind up 2 weeks before. It was a ground blind I had sent out there. It was a hawk reveal, I think.
Reveal, yep.
And he didn't have it brushed in or anything. But they had gotten used to it. So it was sitting up there on this, on this edge, looking down into this valley.
Grassy knoll.
Yeah, it really was actually. And so we snuck in there because we got there kind of late. And he's like, well, we're going to go. And I'm thinking, man, aren't we too late? Because it was a 45-minute drive to the hunting spot from the house.
25.
He said 25. It was 45.
Kansas 25.
Yeah, we rode it a couple times. Finally, I was like, it was hard to tell because we kept making pit stops.
Oh.
So I was like, hey, how long a drive is that? He's like, 20 minutes. I'm like, really? This is the longest 20 minutes. So we started timing it. Finally, it's like, it's 45.
It's different.
Yeah. So anyways, we got out there at like
6:30.
Well, 6:37. Like I was thinking we're late.
Yeah.
And we snuck right into the back of that blind though, zipped it, opened the zipper and snuck right into it. And nothing was on the field. And not 15 minutes later, we spot the buck. Jason's like, there he is. Instantly spots him. We throw up the Leopolds. He comes out of the timber and he's working through this. It was an old pasture ground that has grown up into milkweed. It was nasty. It was thick milkweed down this valley. So you were just kind of seeing tops of neck and above. But from our vantage point, you could see a country mile. So it was great because we saw where he came out bedding, and it was kind of this little river, kind of a standing river. Wasn't really an active river, I wouldn't say.
Yeah, there's a lake above it, and whenever they release out of the dam is when it's running. So it's a lot of swampy ponds and
cattails, very swampy.
Yeah.
So anyways, he comes out of this little timber that was around that river. So that was his bedroom. And we watched him walk right to a certain spot and, kind of we knew where he was heading, where he was going, all that stuff. So we're like, perfect. We need to get in here. He was about 200 yards from where we needed, from where we were set up in that blind. So we were too far out for the muzzleloader. And so we made a plan, got in there early that next day, lunchtime, whatever, set up. I had one more ground blind I sent him. We set that up down in that valley in the milkweed. Okay. Brushed it in. I mean, it looked great. It really did.
Yeah, it looked like a bush. I mean,
looked awesome.
Yeah.
Did you take like a weed eater and like eat up the
where you were going to be? I had a machete.
Okay.
I had a machete and
a saw.
So we just kind of start chopping. So I was sitting in the blind and, we chopped out basically two paths. Ben and Jason went two different ways. It gave me shooting lanes out to, 70 yards basically.
The milkweed was too high to shoot through. I mean, we had to top it off to even get lanes in there.
It was neck high. I'm serious. It was like neck high in most
crop
places.
of milkweed, it sounds like.
That was some nasty stuff.
So Ben ends up cutting himself with the machete.
Okay.
Yeah, we were trimming lanes and cutting tops off of milkweed, and it was probably the last minute, last couple,
The last chop.
last couple 3 chops.
This is
and
the
I went
last one. Ah!
straight through my jeans, right into my shin. I looked up at Matt, and I was like,
And I didn't really know what. I'm like, what? I didn't know what he was talking about.
What?
Turns out it's the only pair of jeans he brought and
yeah.
has in general.
Oh man.
I thought,
machete
we
jeans.
need to pay this kid more
So,
because
Yeah.
I
he
just
only
wanna
has one
patch him
pair of
up.
jeans.
Was it one of those hits that like was so traumatic and so deep that it didn't hurt at first?
it didn't hurt at all. I don't. It was
Ben's dead inside is what we found.
No nerve endings.
no, it didn't hurt. But it went. It made a very clean cut through my jeans. It actually cut the top of my lacrosse boot through too. So I looked up at Matt and I was like, oh. And then I told him once we were finished.
Yeah,
and
I
got
didn't know
back
what
in
happened.
the truck, and I had blood running down my shin. And
I'm like,
It's fine.
shit, man, are you okay? And and so we get back to he bled. We went and ate lunch. No, I'm kidding.
First things first, right?
We gotta
we
eat.
did.
Mac
Did
gets
we
a
eat lunch?
hungies.
I think we did eat lunch.
No, we
Waitress,
did
can I
not.
get a lot of
We went back.
napkins?
Look, I wasn't the driver. Jason was driving. So
Okay.
we went back to camp at some point finally. And Eagle Scout Matt had a first aid kit. I had everything.
Whoa.
I had everything.
Everything you could think of, he had 3 of them, or 4 of them.
Which also came in handy later in the story. But yeah, so we got Ben bandaged up, and it was it probably could have used stitches, a couple, nothing crazy, but it was probably in an inch long,
Yeah.
the cut, and it was pretty. I mean, you
Pretty
could
deep.
see in there,
Yeah.
You
And
could almost see a little bone. It was fine.
Alan, no laughing.
Oh, God.
And so, anyways, we got him patched up. He had to. He's so hairy. He had to shave some legs.
Yeah, the
nothing would
bandages-
stick to him.
Yeah.
Sure.
I should have got super glue.
I was just gonna duct tape it.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that.
I
Super glues are
didn't
pretty-
think about that. I should
handy
have got some
trick.
I
super
did
glue.
not have super glue in that first aid kit, but I had everything else you could think
Okay.
of.
Well,
So,
next time.
so we got him trimmed up and ready to go, and so we get out to we basically turn around, get showered up, scent free, all that stuff. Turn around and go 45 minutes back, and this time it's just he and I. I think, yeah, it was just you
Yeah.
and I. So, anyways, we get in the blind and we had does all over that milkweed, and you couldn't see them until they were on top of you. And boy, did they sniff around, where Ben bled out and all. They were really sniffing and, goosenecking us in the blind, but nothing ever winded us. Nothing winded us.
Okay.
Not once. It was great from that perspective.
Yeah, I was surprised because they were 10 yards from us sometimes.
So when you guys were like hacking the weeds, were you picking them up and throwing
No.
them, or
No.
Okay.
We were
But-
just slicing.
But their jeans and their clothes and, they're generally speaking, their scent was all over the place.
Mhm.
But we didn't, nothing, we didn't get winded.
Okay.
So our deer we didn't see him. We weren't seeing him. And then towards the end of the evening, out of nowhere, this real wide, I'd say probably 20 inches,
Yeah.
21, something like that, popped out from the timber to our right and was looking right at us. The blind was brand new that day. And we didn't necessarily brush that side in as well as
Yeah.
we did
Mm.
what we considered the front.
It was the total opposite direction we were even looking.
So I'm pressed up against that side of the blind. So I swing over trying to get on him and couldn't get on him. He got good footage of him. It turns out I think he was probably 4. It was maybe a good thing that we didn't get on him because
Sure.
I think he may have been young. But in the heat of the moment, I saw him straight on and he was past his ears a
gotta
couple
start getting
inches.
ready.
yeah, he looked
Yes.
good.
He looked good. So and Jason has shown us a trail cam picture of him before the hunt. And he was saying shoot
Yeah.
him,
Yeah.
but once we really looked at him in the footage after the fact, I think he was a 4-year-old and a stud too.
Okay.
Anyway, so didn't see our deer. Next day, go in there, really didn't see much of anything,
No, little buck.
and then the wind switches, and they had still gotten him on trail camera, so we knew he was still in the area, but the wind switched and we couldn't really hunt. It wasn't right to hunt. So meanwhile, Brandon, the landowner's son, he's got a pretty big deer that he has passed for 2 or 3 years.
I think 2 years he's passing, but he has 3 years of sheds.
And
Of this deer.
he's a giant this year. And they hadn't had any trail cam pictures of him or anything.
Not one.
And scouting for this wind, Brandon spotted one from the road and the Milo. They have tons of Milo out there. And so you kind of spot the racks walking through that Milo. And he spotted him at like 11 a.m. or 9 a.m. or something like that. And he wasn't sure what deer it was because he just got a glimpse of him and he was a long ways off. So we didn't have the right wind to hunt the deer we were after. So I was like, he's like, this is where the deer I'm after typically is. It may be that buck. And I was like, screw it. Let's go in there and you hunt and we'll film. And if something else pops up that, they got other bucks in the area, if something else pops up, I'll shoot him. And the deer stands up in the Milo. And these guys have incredible eyesight, Jason and his son, Brandon.
Yeah.
Like this, what they're used to is scouting, long distance. That's the style of hunting out there. And boy, he spots him instantly. He goes, there's my deer. And I was like, okay, where? And I was kind of, we were in a muddy bull blind and I was kind of blocked. I couldn't see. And I look out the window. I was like, holy shit. I'm like, he's a giant. Oh, he was far. He was 250 yards. And that was the closest that day. And he kind of got up and he just kind of walked the Milo out, kind of walking away from us. But he's every bit of mid 70s. And Jason sent me a picture yesterday. I think he's in the 80s.
He's a giant. I mean,
he's a big deer.
Giant.
And so we obviously, Brandon was hunting and we were hoping the deer would turn around and come back our way, but he didn't. So the next morning, Ben goes in with Brandon to film him in the same spot. And they saw him again, didn't come in.
350 yards.
Yeah.
Same general area.
Yeah. And then that evening we split up. Jason went with Brandon and filmed with a spotting scope kind of camera, one of those deals. And then Ben and I went to a new spot. Again, we're just waiting for the right wind back in our own spot.
Yeah.
So this is Thursday.
Yep.
We got skunked.
Yeah.
And then Friday we had the wind we needed. So we're like, all right, we're going back into that spot. But we were looking at DeerCast at the wind checker and it wasn't going to get right until it said 4 or 5 p.m. So we knew we couldn't go in. It was still wrong until that time. So we got there early because during the day, we're kind of thumbs up our ass. We're working on, he was logging footage. I was working on emails, but you're just anticipating trying to get back in there.
Yeah, sure.
So we got in early and I used the nose jammer wind checker about 50 times in the truck. And it just, DeerCast was right. It was just wrong. It was wrong. Finally, it started getting kind of variable winds, swirling a little bit. And I'm like, screw it. We got to get in here. It was like 6 o'clock.
It was getting pretty late.
I was like, let's get down there and just push it for now. We brought an infield ozone generator. We had done nose jammer on the blind, sync crushed our gear. We did everything we felt like we could do. We get down there. The wind's wrong at first, but we just ran ozone over the top. Like that reveal blind's pretty cool because it's got those pockets up top. So I just put my ozone up top and just let it kind of go down, over the top of our scent.
Cover your stink.
Basically. And then all of a sudden the wind starts switching and we see a smaller buck pop out and go kind of where we need him to go through our lane, worked right. And then all of a sudden, boom, put the binoculars up. We see a doe and then behind her is the buck we're after comes out and it's early. It's probably 7.
Yeah, it was way earlier than Sunday night when he popped out.
Yeah, because he had been going through there about 8 o'clock, and we were so far west. Daylight was still pretty.
Yeah,
it was much different than my cameras in Missouri. It was pitch black by then.
Sure.
So, anyways, the deer's coming out. He's walking to our path that we trimmed, like he's getting into our shooting lane. We're calm, breathing fine.
Very calm.
It's a great deer. All the tact cams are rolling. Ben's rolling on the deer. It's like perfect.
That was perfect.
And I wanna go back a little bit. I had shot the gun the week before. It was a Traditions Nitrofire muzzleloader with that fire stick and bleed bullet.
Okay.
A combo that has killed a bunch of deer for Mark and Terry and our crews. Like I've had no problem with my gun ever. And so I say that because I don't think it's the gun's fault. So it shot fine. It was shooting great for us. We shot it twice. We filmed that last week before we went on the trip to make
Friday
sure
morning.
2 days before we left. So it didn't get bumped. Nothing was wrong. We babied the gun all week. I couldn't tell you. It was dead on. So we got an FTS rolling on TactCam, our film through scope on the Leupold. So we had that angle too. We had all angles you could think of. And the deer comes out. He walked. He's 70 yards. Stop him. I got the crosshairs coming. He's slightly quartering to slightly because he kind of turned in when I murked. And I got the crosshairs running up the front of his leg, mid body, like a little lower than mid body. I mean, really perfect. And I pull the trigger, boom, drops. Instantly, the way he's kicking, Ben turns to me with the camera. You can see it right away. I was like, I'm reloading, and I had my stuff even prepared. Again, just marketeering. I've seen it so many times with muzzleloaders. Before we started shooting that bleed bullet, back in the day, that smackdown, and that, you know, we've tried every bullet. You'd stun them, and a lot of times they might get back up and run off. And so just had that in the back of my mind. So I had all my stuff ready. I'm grabbing it. I'm reloading. I'm in the middle of putting the bullet and the sabot back down the barrel. I'm halfway through that, and Ben's filming me. I said, get on him. He's getting up. Stay on him. And before I know it, he timed it. It was like 30 seconds.
30 seconds that deer was on the ground.
He gets up, and he runs off, tail up, and he's trotting, not sprinting, but he's trotting off, tail up, ears up, alert. And I was like, what the hell? I don't know what happened. And of course I got smoked out from the shot, so I wasn't really sure where I hit him, but it felt great. And so we start looking at the footage and all that stuff, and the hit looks like it looked high, but it looked like the percussion on his body, like the ripple effect. He got rocked. Yeah. I mean, it didn't knock him down. It knocked him backwards on his back.
Yeah, he did a backflip.
Yep. And I don't know what happened. And so, of course, we didn't look at the TactCam, the film through scope footage until we were driving home, a day later.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the landowner, Jason, he had actually come out there, and, he's like, hey, you need me to come down there and get the deer? Did you kill him? I'm like, no, stay up there. We're going to come up there. I don't know what happened. We went to look where the hit was. We had, maybe a little bit bigger than a $50 size blood spot. And so I was like, all right, let's back out. And of course I was looking at DeerCast track and all that stuff and text and Mark and Terry, and they're like, yeah, back out till it's like pitch black. And you as high up as you hit, because I filmed it on the LCD of the camera and sent it to the guys. They're like, as high up as that was, you either got that artery that arches up through there, or you're too low for spine, obviously. So it's kind of no man's land once you get up there. Either you got some artery or you didn't. You might have, with some shrapnel, got top of lung or something like that. So we backed out, waited 3 hours. We just went ahead and called it. Jason, the landowner, called a tracking dog, and he had never used this guy. It was kind of recommended to him. That's a whole different part of the story we'll get into. So we waited 3 hours. We go back in, go to the hit. And this first thing, we were at Casey's waiting for the tracker to get there, to meet the tracker. It's about 10 minutes from our spot. So the tracker pulls
the pizza
up.
Place.
Yeah, and we had pizza, like real men. And a Busch Light.
I love Casey's Pizza.
Yeah, sure, Tim. And so the tracker pulls up, and he goes, oh, shit. You guys have any flashlights? I was like, oh, God. Oh. This is not good. Jason didn't have any flashlights. The tracker didn't have any flashlights. Luckily,
Eagle Scout here. I had 3 flashlights, all fresh batteries, and I had a camera
Ben
light.
had his camera light, which is a best tracking light of all. It's an LED. This thing's awesome. So I'm like, yeah, I got lights, and it was going to be $200 for the tracker if he didn't find the deer. $400 if he did. And at that point, it's like, whatever, fine, I'll pay it, whatever. I don't care. We got to, I'm desperate I got to find this deer. So we start blood trailing him. As soon as the dog gets over there, and I'm not going to say the guy's name, who he is, or any of that. I'm not trying to blow this guy up, but I feel like we got bamboozled. And I've been on maybe 4 or 5 track jobs in my life with Tracker John and his dogs, Janie and
Cream of the
Willa.
crop. Yeah.
Dude, this very professional. This guy, this is his living. Well, this guy, I think it was a hobby. And the dog gets out there, and we take him to the spot where we shot and the blood was. And the dog didn't sniff any of that, just takes off. just takes off.
Couldn't even find the first drop of blood.
Couldn't find the blood. The guy tries to grab him by the neck and kind of rub his nose like the dog pissed, when a dog pisses somewhere and he'd rub his nose in it. Like he tried doing that. He's like, find him. Come on, dog. Come on, dog. Come on, dog.
You guys are casting side-eye glances
He grabbed
at each other.
the nose of that dog and put it in the blood, and the dog still couldn't find the blood.
No. And he just takes off, and he's got like a 20-foot, what kind of rope was that?
It was elephant tape rope. He didn't have a leash. Like the thin elephant tape? I think that's what they call it.
Like webbing?
No, it was rope.
It was a rope.
Huh.
Because he needed it later. I'll get to that too. So they take off. And I look at Ben. I said, stay on the blood. You track blood. You and Brandon track blood. Me and Jason are going to go with the tracker. This goose chase. And it was. This dog takes off, basically not running, but almost running.
Yeah.
I mean, fast. And I've seen Tracker John's dogs, like they eliminate the scent of every other deer in the area, and they keep going back to the original. You just, as the person, you just sit there and wait. Mm-hmm. You never follow them right away, and you let them work out their track. Well, this dog never came back. So Jason takes off, and I'm like, well, shit, here we go. So I take off, and we're walking, following the guy, and instantly he's off the track because Ben and I knew where the deer went. We had on film, and we had even shown the guy on DeerCast. Like he went in here. At least this is the last place we see him. Yeah. Well, instantly these two, the dog and the tracker, go straight over the river. They go to the deepest part of the river. So Jason, this guy's dressed in jeans and like a Monster Energy t-shirt or whatever. That's what it kind of gave me vibes of.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
No belt, tennis shoes kind of deal.
Okay.
And Jason wasn't prepared for that, either. He had just come out. Him and Brandon just came out to.
Oh shoot! I forgot my raft.
Well, and the tracker, that's a different story. But Jason, I felt bad for him because he's in his jeans and just regular hiking boots. Okay. You know what I mean? And Brandon was wearing like what do they call those? Ariats or
cowboy boots.
Cowboy boots or whatever. And so like he wasn't ready to be crossing any rivers. Ben and I had lacrosse on. So we had knee highs. Yeah. Ben's had holes in them.
Yeah, and I saw the direction that dog went, and I was not going to follow you guys.
When you've got an open wound on your knee.
Yeah, I was like, you guys stay back, keep trailing the blood.
I didn't even have to worry about no water.
Well, I did. We get to the deepest part of this damn river, and it's sludged. Like, it's a lot of oil wells out there in Kansas, and this was real sludgy. It smelled like, sulfur smell or whatever. It might have been sewer. I don't know. But it was deep. It took us to the deepest part of it. And so instantly, that guy's in waist-high water. Jason's in knee-high water, and I'm trailing behind him, seeing what they're getting, falling into the shit. And I'm like, oh, boy. So I try to find the route closest to them that was a little – because there were a lot of reeds and stuff. So I was trying to step closer where the reeds were. So I was able to get through most of it without getting water in my boots. Well, they were soaked. So anyways, we get over to the other side of the field, and this dog's going up and down the field and all over. And I got one of those LTO trackers. And so I was looking for thermals. I'm like, there's not a deer in sight over here. We're not on blood. I don't know what the dog's tracking, but whatever.
And by the way, he was screaming.
The guy.
Top of his lungs screaming.
As soon as we got there, he's screaming, and Ben and I are whispering. Jason's whispering, and the guy is screaming. I'm like, well, if the deer did bed down, he's not here anymore, fella.
Oh, my gosh. This is insane.
Oh, it was
worst experience.
It was a crazy experience for sure.
And it just makes you feel, and it's not Jason's fault. Like Jason's like he's shaking his head, but we already had the guy out there, and Jason was right. He's like, my thinking is if the deer is dead, which if you hit the artery or whatever, it's 3 hours. Like he's either dead or he's not. If he's dead, this dog should at least be able to find a body.
Yeah.
And so Jason was dead on right. So we keep tracking. We're going up and down, crossing back and forth. And finally I was like,
not a single drop of blood.
No. I see Ben and Brandon back where we were, where the hit was, and they're trailing. I saw their flashlights. So I'm like, screw it. Finally I left. They crossed one more time, and he took us through an even deeper part. And even it was over my knees and went down into my boots. I was like, I was so annoyed and sweating my butt off. And so it's just like, because I had my full pack and, all my knives and stuff, just in case you can't carry your weapon, obviously, because it was at night. So if we had to come up on him and I had my knives with me, and any other rope and whatever else you might need.
Nunchucks.
Exactly. I would have nunchucked him. Anyway,
Whatever it
so
takes.
I go back to Ben, and these guys were on blood.
Yeah.
You had trailed them probably another how many yards? You think?
Probably 100 yards.
So I was like, I'm not hanging out with that guy no more. Like,
Ben $200.
yeah. So Ben and I then Brandon went and met back up with Jason, and Ben and I start trailing, and we trailed him another 150.
150.
And we got back over to that river, and it was like every 10 yards, we'd find a couple specks of blood.
Yeah, very little.
Very little. And we got back over to that river to a different part where the deer actually crossed.
Okay.
And we kept looking, and we didn't really see any like hoof prints in the mud or anything. So we just kind of lost the blood trail. And finally, after we had tracked for
It was over 3 hours. It was probably 140
in the morning.
Yeah.
And so
2 o'clock.
so Jason's like, look, man, no, they came back over. The tracker and the dog are like, the tracker's like, this deer he's alive. He ain't nowhere near here. And we went through this spot and there is no blood. And I'm like, I'm on last blood right here. And so they came back over to the last blood, and I showed them on the app my path of where we had trailed and all my waypoints. And he's like, oh, okay, well, all right, let's look here. He's like, no way he crossed through here, and it was through these reeds or whatever. And as soon as he's like, I just went through there. There's no blood. Jason's like, found blood right where he said he went through. I was like, God, this guy, he's killing me. And so we went through those reeds, and because the hit was so much higher and that deer was down in the water, we had quite a bit of blood going through the reeds, and it was on both sides. Oh. And we're like, and when I say quite a bit of blood, it was better than what we were seeing.
Yeah, better than little drops.
And so we get up over the other side of the bank, and this is nowhere where the dog and the guide had crossed. Not over there. It was further away, further north. And anyways, we cross over, and then we trailed blood for another 20 yards, 30 yards, and lost it. And we then all started gridding through there for more blood and couldn't find any. And this guy's talking at the top of his lungs. And at some point he's like, hey, anybody got a knife? Anybody got a knife? So he didn't have a knife with him. I was like, yeah, I got one. Brandon had one. Brandon gave him his knife. He cut the rope from the dog so he could use it as a belt because his jeans were so wet from going through the river that they were sagging and falling down on him. And I mean, he was just, find him. This is not an exaggeration, is it, Ben?
Oh, no, not at all. No.
Find him. He's 200 yards away from us, and I get here. Find him, dog. Find him, dog.
Cussing him out.
He was cussing that dog out. Just cussing, dog cussing him. He was dog cussing him. And Ben and I were like blood boiling. We were just looking at each other like, God dang it. And Jason's like, look, it's late here. We lost blood. We couldn't find any more. And he's like, let's call off tonight. And Ben and I, we both had to leave. We had been there 6 days. Yeah. And we both had to leave the next morning. And so we got back. It was probably 2:30. Yeah. Each of us had to take a shower because we were covered in crap from the river and all that. And so it was probably 3 o'clock. And at 6:30, it woke us both up so we could get on the road and head home for the 8-hour drive. And Jason was going to get different dogs and go back in the next day for us. And if he found them, I was going to drive back out. But I had to be home for a family stuff going on. So he goes back out there with like 4 or 5 people and more kind of in his core group of people he trusted, and a couple dogs where they knew that these dogs would find a dead deer if the deer was dead. And he said they tracked 4 or 5 more hours and went 75 yards and found one more speck of blood 75 yards north and nothing. Didn't find him. So like we're driving home and I'm beating myself up like, of course Mark's like, well, what happened? Is it you? Is it the gun? What happened? And I was like, I don't know what happened. It felt good. But finally I was like, Ben, I'm dying to know what that FTS shows us. Like, where the hell was I aiming at? I felt good about it. And you look at the footage, and I showed it to you, steady as could be, not shaking whatsoever. Stop him. You couldn't have asked to put the cross maybe an inch lower, 2 inches lower. It looked good. And it just hit 6 or 8 inches high. I don't know what happened. So maybe there was a nick in the sabot, or I don't know. Yeah, it flew weird. Jason thought maybe it hit milkweed or something, but I don't think that was I don't think that's what happened. I'd like to say that's what happened. There was an excuse for it. I don't know what happened.
That's some of the toughest parts of deer hunting is when you don't have closure, you don't have resolution. Yeah. You just don't know, and that's just the way it's gonna be.
Part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a friggin' trip.
Yeah, and then I got everybody like, "How's Kansas? You kill something?" And I got to send them like,
Well,
no
actually,
luck. And all the people on Instagram that sending me DMs because our stories were out there all week. And they're like, "Well, did you kill it?" I'm like, "No luck," But,
yeah, that's the salt in the
But you don't want to get into it. It's just like I figured I'd come on here and tell the story, but I don't want to get into it with 50 people that send me a
Tell the
message and
story.
ask me how I did over there. It was very frustrating. Not that we didn't kill the deer.
No. Yeah, I get that.
And then it's like,
brutal.
here we go. Let's extend 22 into 23.
Let's get the bad juju out of the air now.
Yeah. I don't know what happened. We'll show the hit here on the show if somebody wants to watch it on DeerCast or YouTube or whatever, but I couldn't tell you what happened.
Dang.
From here on out, it's only going to get better, though.
It can only get better.
There's the silver lining.
Knocking
Heck
on
yeah.
wood.
Heck yeah. It has been nice. Like it's deer season is on now, so I've had a few sits and seen a few deer, and it's like, oh, this is what we've been waiting for all year. And
Be careful what you wish for.
It's like, do I want to take a shot at a deer?
That was the other kick in the pants. So leading up to Friday, the Missouri season started, and we have several properties. We got shooters on several properties. And I was like, Scott, I cannot go on Sunday afternoon. Lola had a soccer game. I couldn't miss it. It was at 4 p.m. I'm like, you got to find a camera guy. I told him that, I think, Thursday or Friday. So he was trying to line up camera guys. But, of course, everybody naturally wants to be hunting. It was a decent temperatures and cold front for the beginning of the season. So he couldn't find a camera guy. And then that night, shooters that I had in Marthasville showed up, and Doug's texting us about that. You boys out there? It's like, no. And then the deer that I wanted Scott to go on my farm and kill, awesome deer, showing up on daylight. He showed up 10 steps from the blind on camera. We had the perfect win. Just
I felt bad.
Insult to injury.
Yeah, Scott texted me Sunday. I was driving home from church, and Scott texted me. He's like, "Hey, all my camera guys have fallen through. Can you come?" And I was like, I got the kids all evening and stuff, and I just couldn't. And then to see that deer show up, it's like,
yeah,
of course.
So that was salt in the wound. I told him, I was like, look, next week we're supposed to get some north winds. And the full moon's coming around, and there's a rain event coming through. I was like, we're splitting up. Ben can come with me. We're
Divide
finding
and
you a
conquer.
camera guy. I was like, we're not messing around. Like we got to up our chances here this season.
Agreed. Yeah,
So-
I've got a really nice buck that's showing up, but he's showing up in the middle of the night. So like,
He is nice.
I've got some cameras out and
exciting.
just trying to wait for him to start daylighting, because he was daylighting back in Velvet a few weeks ago, and then he went hard horned and everything changed.
I would not be surprised if you see him daylight next week. The end of next week. The conditions are lining up. I just wouldn't be surprised if he's on his feet earlier.
Here's hoping.
You're getting him here. It's the dark of the moon, so it's not. Friday was anyways, so it's not the most optimal time. Now weather beats moon. I get it, but it's also warming up on us here this week.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough the next few days, but then like you said, that cool front and the moon, and it's gonna get good. But hey, so we've got a cool real wild clip this week.
Is a deer falling over backwards and then getting up 30 seconds later?
It's
We
more
could make
violent
that
than that.
real.
Okay.
This comes to us from
Not
Jarrett
tagged in it.
Wybron on Instagram, JL Wybron on Instagram. He allowed us to use this, so it's a pasture. I think it's out in Colorado. Bunch of elk out there, and there's a mountain lion chasing a young elk, and the elk runs into a barbed wire fence, and then the bobcat jumps and pounds, because it looked like the elk was going to get away. Well,
It's not hugging
the mountain lion is hugging the elk,
neck with
but
his teeth.
also crushing its windpipe.
Yeah, that's incredible. To capture that on camera, holy cow.
What we don't show here is that Jarrett was watching all this with a rifle, and he took that mountain lion. He killed that mountain lion.
And that's legal, I assume.
I assume so. Also,
We're not gonna get in trouble, are we?
And he said that they actually eat the mountain lions.
That sucker is huge too.
That is a big cat.
So what
and
happened
a
to the calf, I
fast
wonder?
cat. The
Dead?
calf was not so lucky.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
that's a
died.
shame.
But
Man,
Circle
nature's
of life.
wild.
Can you
cruel.
imagine though? Like it would be like us killing
I
a
mean,
great buck and then sitting for the hero photo, then having a heart attack and just keeling over.
I think that's you're just describing PETA's dream scenario.
That's what they absolutely want that to happen.
Yeah. Well, man, that's crazy. That is wild.
Yeah, thanks, Jarrett. Appreciate it, buddy.
Ben has a mountain lion story.
Yeah, my girlfriend texted me Friday night. She was heading from St. John to Herman, and she said she saw a mountain lion
Oh,
in
wow.
between New Haven and Herman. And apparently, there's been a couple sightings around that area. And she said it was crazy. I was like
Like she was driving.
she was driving, and it crossed the road in front of her. She said the tail was super long. I was like, that's a once in a lifetime ordeal.
Wow.
Can we trust her?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah,
I like her.
she's like, I called my dad. I had to tell him it was crazy. I'm like, yeah, I believe
I'm
you.
the opposite. I don't like her, but I do trust her.
Oh,
Well, that's good.
That's-
At least you trust her. Yeah. I do too.
People are going to start seeing more.
I didn't say I didn't. I said, could we?
Yes, we can. We can trust her.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I love Gracie Jane.
Mountain
We
lions
saw
are
a lot of
the
stuff on the
rise.
road in Kansas.
Oh, it was. It was crazy.
There was-
Armadillos.
Oh, everything. There was one night we were driving home and there was an owl, an armadillo, a bobcat. We saw snakes. We saw frogs, turtles.
Seahorse.
The owl,
Looks
it
like-
was the craziest thing.
Yeah, it
We're
was-
driving these are long drives. Again, 45 minutes, and I don't drive slow, and it's a long
It's
drive.
all chalk gravel.
Yeah. So we're flying down the road, and something had just run in front of us,
It was a possum.
and so we were kind of like, oh, this is probably 9:30 at night, and so then all of a sudden we're looking ahead, and we're both like, what the hell is that? It's in the road, and it's just, I don't know.
It was like a black shadow.
Yeah, and
It was-
creepy. and then
The
I fly
kindergartner.
by it, and I mean, I'm flying. I fly by, I was like, holy shit, that's an owl. And I just, veer out of the way so we don't hit it. And it never flew off.
No.
It never
Oh,
moved.
that was his road.
And I'm telling you, I'm a foot from that thing.
Yeah,
like,
it was a big
dang.
owl. I
Yeah.
mean,
yeah. So I'm veering out of the way so we don't hit it, and the night before that, Ben thought he saw, what was it? A black bear.
oh yeah,
It was a cow.
it was a cow. Hey,
We're flying down the road. He's like, oh my God, what is that? I'm like, I figured it was a cow, but he was on the wrong side of the fence. And,
wrong side of the fence. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
luckily we slowed down because luckily he wasn't in the road.
yeah, that'll
Pretty
give you a
bad.
bad day.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Snakes, several creepy
Oh, boy.
snakes flying
Yeah,
across the
that's-
road. Those suckers were fast too.
Yeah, they were quick.
Dang.
Heebie-jeebies.
Yeah, man.
Spiders. In
I
the
found
swamp.
out Ben's afraid of spiders, and
Oh.
we saw a ton of giant
Snakes and
spiders
spiders.
on that track.
the hands and knees blood track job. There was spiders, wolf spiders this big. It was-
I'm
And
just
he's like, look at all the babies on that wolf spider's back.
oh yeah, they were full.
It was disgusting.
It was nasty.
I'm just gonna throw this out there, something to consider. Maybe some of the blood trailing you guys were doing was Ben's blood.
I bled more than that. I might have bled more than that.
So we were in a farm and home, Orchlands or something one day, and picking up some supplies, and I was like, Ben, buy a new pair of jeans because he had no one pair, and it looked like an oil stain. He had so much blood down the leg of it. I
Oh,
was
these are
like,
good. Oh, come on.
please buy a new pair of jeans.
Little
So
Dawn dish
he's
soap,
like,
hydrogen
should
peroxide.
Should I?
Yeah, and
He
I did. And
he
I'm,
was very proud of himself.
I'm back to one good pair.
Hey, what'd you get?
Just some Wrangler retro boot cuts.
Dang,
He's a man.
Must be nice.
Yeah, I'm a man.
Wranglers. All right. Hey, let's jump into the question of the day.
Hey, it's 10:58. You
It's-
gotta go.
Let's
Don't you have an 11 o'clock call?
let's bust through it.
Okay. Question of the day is proudly presented by Tenzing. Go further, hunt longer with a Tenzing hunting pack. We did go further, by the way. I had that new Tenzing, and we went all over the place on that
Battle
track job.
tested
All right, so this is from Ryan Steele, right? Rack Pack member,
or Stelly. I don't know.
Stelly. I'm going to say Steel because it's cooler. All right. With Rage no longer selling practice heads in the back, how do you guys practice with your mechanical broadheads? I did see that comment in the Rack Pack.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the nice things about most of the profile on the Rages is that they fly so much like field tips that you
Yeah.
don't really have to. I do suggest you do shoot what you're going to shoot in the field at least a little bit, but I started taking the collar off of my Rages, and I'll pick like one or two to super glue.
Like
and
one
then,
that you've used a bunch or whatever. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Super glue the blades in the like the slim profile.
Yeah.
And then shoot with that.
I have to wonder though, does that mess with the profile if that's not perfect, the super glue, or if it weighs it down, do you think that affects it? I mean, I know you guys, Scott does it. I know Alan does. I often wondered that if it messes with that.
Yeah,
flight.
I mean, if you get the glue right inside the channel, it doesn't really, it's not exposed to anything.
Yeah.
Now you could argue like, well, maybe the weight's a little different, but I take the collar off, so I try to like it's
balances out.
Yeah, but and also for the level that we shoot, it's probably not. I
use a mix of field points, but I have a couple of those old practice heads left that I found in my pack somewhere, and I hold on to those things because I've had plenty back in the day, and through time I've lost enough arrows that I've lost the practice heads, so I'm down to like 3. Yeah, it's like hold on to those. They're suckers. Valuable. They are. Yeah.
So that's what I would suggest doing. Okay. And the wildlife words made possible by Tracker Off-Road. With rugged dependability and the power to get where you're going, a Tracker Off-Road side-by-side makes for the perfect hunting partner. Okay, guys. So if fawns don't actually need a doe's milk at this time of year, why do they still nurse?
They like that.
Is it A, they also consume a lot of cereal. Can't have cereal without milk. B, it's sterile. They like the taste. C, it's a bonding exercise. Or D, the Got Milk campaign from the 90s worked really well.
I mean, either B or C, right?
I'll go with C.
It's a bonding experience. C. It's a bonding experience.
Yeah. That's what most whitetail experts believe. B could also be true. We don't know.
Listen, I don't know.
We haven't done any surveys.
I'm not a biologist, Tim. I don't know. I don't know these things.
I've been sold a false bill. Okay, we got some shout outs. Our buddy Evan Loibel gave us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. He said, great podcast, solid topics, many laughs. I've seen the podcast floating around on socials for a while. I've never been a podcast fan, but decided to listen to one. Long story short, I've now burned through almost 300 podcasts.
This poor guy.
I've learned that Matt can't read. Yeah. Tim loves to swing in his saddle. Whee!
Just a swing.
Zebco reels are great. In all seriousness, I love the podcast and all the different topics and guests you have on. Keep up the great work.
Hey, thanks, Evan.
Yeah, that's
a good one.
Nice
we
job.
need more Evans in this world.
Yeah, we do. I've always said that.
Evan's a real solid guy.
All the Evans I know are good guys.
True. I'm sure we'd be best friends.
Did we just become best friends?
Yep. Possible.
I thought you were dead.
Yeah, so we're driving home from Kansas, and Ben, several hours into it, he pulls up this clip, and it was from Step Brothers. It's that scene where Will Ferrell's in the dirt, and John C. Reilly's standing over the top of him, and he's like,
I watched you die.
I watched you die. I thought you were dead.
And I just kept rerunning that shot and that deer standing up.
I watched you die.
I think that's from something else also.
Oh,
that scene is definitely that scene in Step Brothers because they got in that fight. And then at night or whatever, and then he drug him out and buried him in the backyard. And Will Ferrell's just like, I was slowed my heart rate down, ninja or whatever he says there. Yeah. I watch you die. Oh, classic.
What can't we learn from that movie?
We need to add it we should have added it.
Yeah, that'd been perfect.
Next episode.
Yeah. All right. So Rack Pack members, private Facebook group, 100% Wild Rack Pack. Join it if you haven't. It's good fun. We're starting to see people that can hunt. We're starting to see their kills in there.
Oh, that one guy,
velvet bucks. That one guy yesterday had a giant in velvet from Missouri, right?
Yep.
And that was a hell of a deal.
It really was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lance, was it Lance something?
I don't remember.
Lee? Sorry,
I just knew I didn't like him.
It was I was very happy for him. And all the kills. It's fun to see it. All right, so we got some new members here. We got Terry Miners, Keith Lubner, Lee Owens, Logan Jacks. I don't like that one. Hunter DeSplinter. Hunter DeSplinter. Jacob Brune, Billy Arnold, Seth Brogel, Landon Baker, Karen $4. Karen for bucks. This is the fake name. Man, that's the tough one because Logan Jacks, it doesn't really seem fake, but Jacks.
Hunter DeSplinter.
Hunter DeSplinter definit't seems fake.
That's a cool name.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
But Karen, $4.
Karen, $4.
Well, I care for the one I hit. I felt terrible about. That's the worst part about it. Yeah. Felt terrible about it. It's like, God dang it. And we had everything ready. I felt like our equipment was ready. We were ready. Everything lined up. I do not know what happened.
Well, right now we're in limbo. Contributing editor Jim Richmond to DeerCast hit monster buck last night.
Do you sure he wants us to talk about? Are you sure he wants us to talk about that?
He'd be okay with it, and I know he's in the process of looking for it right now. He did not he got good penetration, but no exit wound. So last I heard last night, no blood. And man, you talk about going from a high of, oh gosh, just shot a really good buck to not
Feel
seeing
that,
blood, and then you get that sinking feeling.
Honestly, I never got to the high part because the way my deer was kicking, I was like, he's about to get up. I got to get another one on him.
Yeah, you knew right away.
I was like,
You
couldn't
had a
have
feeling.
tried to reload any faster. I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's end this podcast.
Let's do it. All right. Thanks, guys. Good luck if you're out there hunting. If you're starting on October 1st, then you better get your stuff ready. It's coming.
Bow season's here. Gun season's upon us. Good luck out there. Be safe. Till next time. Peace out.
DeerCast is now supercharged with maps. Get ahead of your game with killer new features like live Doppler radar, wind check out to 5 days, virtual rain gauges, GPS path tracking, and more. Plus, get our 14-day revolutionary DeerCast prediction and access to DeerCast Track. Prep, predict, and pursue with DeerCast.
We're adding new videos every week, so make sure to click that subscribe button and check out all of our amazing content. This episode of DoD TV is brought to you by DeerCast. Prep, predict, and pursue your target buck.